Hello. How are ya? Hey, Chaz. Let me get Chaz in here. Hey, Nanny announcements. Uh-oh. Let me see. Everything is looking crazy. I have no idea what I'm doing here. Okay. Hi, everybody. Chaz, I'm trying to get you in here. And it won't let me. Okay, here we go. All right. I think I got you on here, Chaz. Did it let you in?
Hey, I'm here.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey guys.
please hold. Let's see this off. Actually,
Everybody's starting to come in.
do I want the headphones in? Do I not want the headphones in? Hey.
I can hear
Oh,
you really good.
okay, cool. We'll do headphones.
Hi, Awareness. Hey, Nanny announcements, Miss Ashley. Hey, Carly.
Oh, wait, hold on.
And Tiny Dreamer. Hello.
I'm trying to bring the studio light in here.
Uh-oh. Studio lighter.
Here we go. Not really. It's my regular lamp. I'm just pointing it at me. Yeah, here we go.
Oh, I love it. He says, it's my regular lamp.
Hey, Tiny Dreamers Daycare. I love you too. Oh, I appreciate
Aw,
that. I
that's
think, was it you
cute.
did you
Yes.
send me a message? I think you sent me a message recently, and I'm pretty sure I followed you back. So, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. This is, you guys know, bringing it out already. This is the heart. It's for you. Yes. Oh man. So we got awareness. You look familiar too. I feel like I've seen nanny announcements before.
Hi, Jessie G. Yeah, Nanny announcements and ANC Nanny is same person.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Everything nanny. Hey, okay. So Kim, and I
Yeah.
meant to actually talk to you about this before we got on, but we'll talk about it in front of everyone.
Okay.
I think that this episode, and you tell me what you think in front, we can have a real life discussion.
Okay.
I think that this episode, we should just do the 45 minutes or whatever Instagram lets us do, because we're pretty much talking about similar, same kind of thing on my podcast
Yeah.
on Monday. And
Okay.
we already talked about it on the podcast like a couple days ago. So I feel like between all three, we should be good to do 45 minutes here.
I think that is like stellar. I think that's
Okay.
yeah. I think
Okay.
that. So, hi everybody. We got people still. There's still people coming in. So,
Cool.
um,
Cool. I love it.
I
Yeah.
think tonight's topic is pretty huge and it deserves as much of a platform as it can get right now. So maybe we'll do a little bit of just a plug for ourselves, because you were just talking about it.
Yeah.
Hi, Miss Vargas sister, the Vargas sisters.
It was
Yeah,
the low key plug. It was
yeah.
like I'm plugging it, but they don't know I'm plugging it.
Hey, let's throw it
Yeah.
out there. Hey, Miss Morgan.
Oh, so yeah, that actually reminds me. I'm gonna put the link in the comments. So I might go away for a second, but I'll be right back, guys.
Okay. Let me see. So tonight we're pretty much gonna talk about the new norm because we just feel like we needed to. It's been coming up in a lot of our like conversations actually.
Yeah.
Um, and so, we wanted to hit it on this platform because sometimes you guys don't always follow us on different things or see us on different things, and it's always easy to just kind of reiterate some of the things that we talk about, I guess as far as when we're doing other things. So if you didn't know, I posted today, I think Chaz posted it. We have, I'm trying to pin this. Okay. So we did a podcast. It was released yesterday for Nanny Adventures. And so they have a podcast called Nanny Adventures on Air. So you can find it on iTunes, Spotify, I think Stitcher. Stitcher is the other one.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the big three that,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's episode 28 and it's called Combating Biases. And we talk about, probably some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today, but we talk about biases in children and how to have, culturally aware children and how to raise them and things you can do to help children, you know, combat these, crazy biases that we put on them. So that conversation, I actually listened to it again last night, even though I was part of the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like I listened to it again last night and I was just like, oh, we made some really great points. I got to remember this when I'm thinking about, the kids in our nanny and stuff. So I think that it's totally worth a listen. It's probably
Yeah.
like 45 minutes long at the longest. You can listen to it in the car. And it's totally worth listening to, especially if you have younger kids that you're raising now and you want to insert some of this, stuff, right now. So, but tonight we wanted to hit on the new norm. So, there's this theory of the Vargas sisters. They're saying we have 3 girls. We live on your TikTok. Oh, she said it helps so much. That is so cool to know.
Oh, I can't even see the comments. If I can't see the
Yeah.
comments, I guess
Oh,
it's a thing.
yeah.
You'll just have to tell me.
I'll tell
But
you.
well,
But
thank you,
Vargas,
Vargas sisters.
yeah,
I
they said,
appreciate that. If you live on my TikToks, you're really gonna want to sign up for my Patreon because that's even more content and online classes. And I'll put that in the comments too. What I just put in the comments before is the interactive podcast that I have that I do every Monday. Next week, Nanny Kim on the go will be on the podcast with me, and we're going to be talking about kind of some things to be thinking about. It's a similar topic of today, but different things to be thinking about and as we're going into the school year, whether you're hiring a nanny, whether you're gonna do community learning and community teaching, whether you're gonna go in the school system, whether you're gonna have childcare. We're gonna talk about all of that. We're gonna start the conversation here today, but I think this is such a large conversation. I don't think
yeah.
we're gonna finish it in 45 minutes. So just jump on to the interactive podcast. It's every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And that's just so that you can be right there and you can ask us questions in real time. If you want, you can even grab a seat and you can be on the video with us and asking us questions and have conversation kind of like we're doing now, but you would actually be able to do a video if you want. So definitely check that out, subscribe, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's Get Vocal.
Get,
So if you didn't see it, you know what? Put it in the comments again. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna pin it. I'm gonna make that
okay.
pin so people see. So we're pinning it at the bottom. Hopefully you can see it, but that's Chaz's Get Vocal. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on there with him this Monday and we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff. But yeah, I really liked it. I went on Chaz's Get Vocal last Monday, and I like the platform. I like that people that are in the audience could like get on the live with you, and you can have like up to 4 people, up to 3 people with the moderator talking, and it was really good. So yeah, as the nanny was there, she said last week was awesome. Hey,
Oh, cool.
Chella's like, hey, Chella, he already threw his heart up.
Ooh, oh, I can't. I don't see the comments, but I just want you to know I brought it for you, Chella. I brought it. I brought it. Well, let's jump into it, Kim,
Yeah,
because
let's get
we're
into it.
setting the deadline.
Yeah, we are. So we wanted to talk about the new norm. The new norm is pretty much everybody's been saying, I don't think that things are going to go back to the way they are, the way they were. And what do I need to do now? Like what do I do going forward? Do I put my kid in school all day? Do I, take them out? Do I homeschool? How does this work? What are the best things that we should do? So this is it's one of those topics that is sometimes I'm hesitant to talk to parents about it until I figure out what they're saying, because a lot of times parents they've already made a decision.
Mm.
They've made a
Mm.
decision in their head what they're going to do. So what I say doesn't really matter unless it's
Yeah.
backing what they want.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but then there are some parents that they really just are like, I've been too busy to even think about what I need to do. So those are the parents that we're talking about today. Like, if you really have just been, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so busy, I don't even know, I haven't thought about all the options and how to weigh them. This is the conversation you should be in. So, um, hi Maybell, she's saying, oh my gosh, how am I just finding out about this? So exciting for Monday. So yeah,
Oh,
she'll
yay.
get your Monday. So so that's the thing, is that we want to tackle that today. I have heard so many things. Yeah, see, Katie just said she hasn't even had time to think about it. Hi, Alice. So I think that what my main thing that I want to say is, as a parent, um, and I say this all the time, as a parent, what we have to realize as parents is our children's education is not the responsibility of the government. Our children's education is our responsibility. So if if the if the schools don't open, it is still your responsibility to make sure that your children have the education that they need. So with that being said, the government is in, they have schools, they have daycares. These are extra things to help you. It's not a replacement for the education that you should be giving. So when you're talking about what is the new norm and what should I be doing, the new norm should actually be something that was already normal. It should be extended. Like, school should be an extension of what's happening and what should have been happening in the home. So this is kind of, this pandemic is kind of getting us refocused in every area, I feel like, because you do have this stretch. And so with that being said, me personally, I'm a huge advocate for homeschooling. That's just me. I've seen different types of homeschooling. I've seen it done well, and I know the outcome that it can bring. And I also feel like homeschooling done right means that your kids, actually, most children that have homeschooling, they actually graduate from school early because they're done. They don't have to worry about all the, you know, bureaucratic extra classes that school makes you take. I know when I was in high school, I was probably going to graduate early, like a year early. And they kept me behind because they were like, even though we skipped you all these grades, you know, in New Jersey, you have to have 4 years of physical ed and 4 years of English. But I had done all these like honors classes and AP classes. So they didn't have anything to give me. So they made up a journalism class so that I could have a fourth English. I'm like, this is and so I literally had to come to school my senior year, which was the fourth year, just to take one journalism class and to take gym. And then the rest of the day I was done. And so they ended up putting me in co-op. So I started working at in human resources. That's how I got started in human resources. I started working in human resources, doing an internship in New York at Bank of New York at the time. So my senior year, I used to travel to New York City from New Jersey. I was like 16, and that's how I started my career in HR. But you know, things like that. Had I been homeschooled, I would have been done. I would have been going to college at 16 instead of having to work an extra year. So Katie is saying, when saying homeschool, do you personally support the formal education model carried in the home, or more of, let me see, like an unschool model or some other form of theory? When I say homeschool, I mean, I've seen homeschool co-ops done, and they're done really well, where parents share the load and they have their kids all in one school, like in a home. Or when you take on the responsibility yourself. Now, I know for certain states, they have it where you can homeschool your children as long as you have a high school diploma. I don't know if it's changed. It's been a while since I've looked everything up, but as long as you have a high school diploma, you can homeschool your kids up to eighth grade. And then after that, you have to have a college degree to do any type of homeschooling for high schoolers. So I've seen people do it up to eighth grade. Yeah, up to eighth grade. And then they'll, because they, may not have finished their degree or something, they'll switch over to a regular school or a specific type of like training school where they teach like a specialty or something.
So
So yeah.
Kim, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm just curious of what you think that I think. Um, what what do you think? And just give a general answer, because I don't think we've talked about this before. What do you think my opinion is on the education system and formal school? What do you? I'm just curious as to what you would think.
I don't know. What do I think that Mr. Chaz thinks? Yeah, we haven't. We've talked about this a lot, and we haven't asked that question. I mean, I'm not sure. I think that maybe you're a little bit of both. Like that, you'll say, "I think you should homeschool," but I also feel like, that social settings are better in school.
Fair enough, fair enough. So I'll share. I don't, my overall opinion on the education system is that we do we have a factory model education system where the education system is meant to, create factory workers to work in the factories and it's trying to condition people to just, to pretty much cooperate, pretty much is what it is, with just the whole way that it's set up with the rows and the bells and just teaching everyone the same thing and not taking into account individuals. It is all focused on getting children to cooperate in a, not even really a corporate world, but
Mm-hmm.
really built for children to go into a factory and work. And it's been that way, you know, since we've had factories, right? And now education is, and now the working world is so different. One, I wouldn't necessarily support that to begin with because I think there's so much more value to people than putting them in an assembly line. But I get it. That's what work looked like at the time. So that's what the school was preparing them to work in a factory.
Yeah.
But now there is no reason why school, still looks the same, why it hasn't been changed, why we don't individualize, why we don't, look at the strengths of each individual child, why, and I don't think, and on the, and I think it's, and let me be clear, I think it's the system. I think it's a system problem. I don't think it's a teacher problem or necessarily the principal. They are just cogs in the machine that also, they get conditioned to value, the only thing that's important, and teachers get evaluated, and principals, and we start to see this, and even as parents and teachers, we start to see our role as the adults, as the parents or teachers or principal, as exercising as much control as possible over children. And the way that you can tell that I'm a good teacher is that everyone in the classroom is obeying and listening to whatever I do. And I don't think that is, or whatever the teacher says, or order, right? And compliance is really the grading system on which teachers and principals and parents even are judged by. And I think when we do that, and we participate that in any way, whether we're the ones who are judging a parent or teacher because a child is not complying, or we are the ones who are just trying to exercise just unnecessary amounts of control over children, I think we are doing a huge disservice to children and what their strengths are and, what their potential, what their ability is. It's like, trying to put in, and a lot of times, children, all people in general have all different skills, talents, temperaments, right? And a lot of times it's almost like we're trying to put the the square peg in the round hole constantly, and when it doesn't fit, we just try to jam it in even harder. And if it doesn't fit, then we blame the square peg instead of saying, okay, well, maybe the environment isn't the best environment for your learning style. Instead of trying to teach children the way that they learn, we try to make children learn the way that we teach. And so I think that is my overall kind of thought about the education system. And and so as a result, I am, until we completely dismantle and reform education and reimagine it in the way that we test children and their knowledge instead of just regurgitating information, actually testing them on their skills and ability, until we, create environments in classrooms where teachers are actually able to really get to know each individual child and see their strength and spend the extra time and build off of, their interest and even, take the curriculum, even, adjust it a little bit based off of the children in that classroom. um you know until we're able to do that, I do think it is more effective in terms of just teaching and learning and cognitive abilities of doing the homeschool, or even some of I think, the community teaching that Nanny Kim was talking about, on another thing. And I hope that, and I would encourage you to talk about it more, or talk about it again, because I'm not as familiar with that style, but it seems like that could be very effective, in terms of, the one thing I have about homeschooling, which is what you say too, is that, like, you don't get as many social opportunities as you do when you're in a typical traditional school, private or public, right? And I think even private schools, I went to private school for majority of my life. And I think even in my sheltered private school, I wasn't exposed to as many people and diverse people. So even in that situation, I felt like I was missing a little bit on the social on the social scales, on the social aspect, and understanding different people. Um, I luckily for me that I other schools that I went to were very diverse.
Right.
So I was able to get that. But so I would say that homeschooling and community teaching, in terms of if you're afraid of your child falling behind or just cognitive ability, like, that is what I would suggest. And kids are going to be not socializing very much
Yeah.
in at school anyways, and they're going to be discouraged from
But
socializing.
yeah.
So that's not even really a strong argument for to send them to school 2 days a week if they're doing the hybrid system like they're doing in my state of Virginia.
Yeah. I mean, and that's everything that you said is spot on. Like, this is our system. Our system was taught um, to just be that way. Hi, Salon Montessori. Um, our system was made.
Kim, I'm gonna be right back in hopes, because I'm really missing the comments.
Yeah,
So
you
I'm
are.
gonna log off and log back on and hope I can see the comments. But you can keep on
Okay.
talking.
Okay. So, I mean, like, everything that Chad said is true. Our system really was made for factory style. I mean, the fact that we still in 2020 have our kids go to school and they have to ask permission and raise their hand to go to the bathroom, I just think is ridiculous. So even as a nanny, when I'm at work and I have kids in the afternoon after school and they raise their hand or they're like, I have to go to the bathroom, I'm like, just go, like, go to the bathroom. The fact that they're so programmed that they have to ask to do something that is a bodily, a bodily thing, um, that's they should normally just be able to go to the bathroom. Like, we spend all this time training them to go to the bathroom, and they literally have to go to school, raise their hand, and ask to go to the bathroom. If I have to go to the bathroom, guess what? I'm not raising my hand. I mean, that alone just floors me, that I have to untrain a child that when they're home to just go to the bathroom. This is something that you just wouldn't have. This is not normal. So our system does have its flaws. It has its good points, but it also has its flaws. And the social skills can be worked around. You know, there are plenty of communities that you can join that have the social settings. You can create those. I know Chaz wants me to go into talking about the co-ops, which I think is important. I think I was talking the other day to Ask the Nanny, and she was saying how she saw a post, which I think is amazing. Someone wrote a post and was saying, hey, I live in a community, and you know, there are 4 or 5 moms. We're willing to pay somebody who is a teacher, you know, a certain amount an hour, or however it is they wanted to pay a teacher to come in and teach their kids. Between the 4 or 5 parents, they had, you know, enough children to make a class, you know. And you can see the comments, yay. Okay.
Yeah.
So
For
that's
now.
right. So I think like things like that are amazing to see, because it's easier. I've done daycare, I've done nanny work. So I've always said I love when I can take the smaller class, you know, the smaller class over the larger class, because I can give them more attention and more time. I can give more to them. And so what happens is I've realized that homeschooling is not for everybody. There are some people that they're just like, I need a break. I can't do this all day. This is not for me. And to each their own. But what I would say is that you have options. School is not the only option that you have. So just like there's, you know, there are daycares that study Montessori. There are daycares that do the play, learn, something. I forget the rest of it, but it's like play, learn, educate, something else. But they have the 4, you know, squares that they do, and they run on that rotation system. But when you have different, you know, schooling sets, you pretty much look at the homeschooling. Well, before I go into that, you have this hybrid that they want to do. The 3 things that they are saying is to just send the kids back, which I think is insane, because kids just in general do not understand social distancing. And even if they do understand social distancing, they don't want to. And they're in there, especially if they're in their teens, they're not listening to social distancing. I can tell you how many people I know that have teens, and they're calling me and they're just like, he went over to his girlfriend's house. He went over to his friend's house. This person is coming over my house and they want to spend the night. Some mother just texted me and asked me, could we have the kids go to a hotel because it's the kid's birthday? Like, the parents can't control the teens. The teacher is not going to be able to control the teens. They're going to do what they want. So that's one thing. Then you have the other thing is the hybrid, where people are going to be sending them 3 days on, 2 days off, 2 days on, 3 days off. And you still have to do homeschooling. At the end of the day, you still have to have them do work in between. So where are they going to be if you're not homeschooling them, and what are they going to be doing? So if you don't have some kind of curriculum set up anyway, it's a waste of time, because they're just going to be home doing nothing. And they're only getting school those 3 days. So you still have to have something to do for the time that they're home. And then there's just to keep them out of school and do the social distancing, all the way around, and homeschool them, you know, do the home, I guess, schooling virtually. And then you have this whole thing of just taking them out and you homeschooling them yourself. So there are those things. I think the hybrid and the just sending them back is just not going to work. The virtual learning will only work if you have some kind of resource where you're making sure that they're doing everything that they need to do. And then the homeschooling is you just taking control of it. So where the co-op would come in is just like how I said, you can have people where they are, schooling their kids together. So I know a lot of people are saying they're going back to work, but their jobs are doing like the 2 day, 3 day on, 2 days off kind of thing. If you have other people in your community that want to do it and they have the same type of schedule, then you take one day and you do math. Figure out what you're great at, what you're good at, and what you can
Mm-hmm.
teach. Maybe one teacher is going to do math, one teacher is going to do English, one teacher is going to do social studies or social sciences or something. But you can teach in the state. Every state has their own curriculum that they'll give you if you homeschool. You can actually create a school and name it and have benefits and everything like a regular school. I know several people that have actually created their own school, and they have it in their home, and then they let people know in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood have enrolled their kids in this private homeschool. And so the state will give you a curriculum. The state will tell you what tests they should be taking and what they need to pass at a certain age. And as long as you stay in the guidelines, and your children are meeting the curriculum needs that the state gives and outlines, and as long as your children are passing the state test, they will not shut your school down and they will not make you take the children to school. That's
Yeah.
across the board. So I don't know if, I think a lot of people think, Little House on the Prairie homeschool, like we all gonna be in a church or one room, and there's gonna be a teacher with a chalkboard. Like there are literally schools that are already online and they've been doing this for
Yeah.
years. Like
So
they've already been doing it and it works.
yeah, and so I want to make an ask to that. He said, "I'm thinking of some big ideas." No, no, because you said something and it made me like just make another connection because now I talk all the time about how like we should play to our children's strengths and really like think about what their interests are and really build on that. Um, and and we were just talking about how the school system doesn't do that all. And as you were talking about community teaching, you said it. You said, find what you're good at. So like even as adults, right, we tend to, the things that we use are the things that are in our skill set, right? Now, yeah, so and it's not about, it's not saying that because you're bad at math, don't learn math at all. What I'm saying is that yes, you definitely need a baseline level of knowledge of math, but maybe you don't spend you make sure you get to that baseline so you can pass that test, meet that standard, but you spend more time on building the areas that the child enjoys and they're interested in, that they're going to flourish in, that they're probably going to do on their own. Like maybe they're really into English, and so you really build on maybe it is journalism for them, or maybe it is something where they are doing a lot more writing or creative writing or something like that. And
Mhm.
then, as they grow older, as they are going into the workplace, they're not going to get a job in a place that they don't, they're going to, where their primary part of their job is to use the weakest part of their skill set. And regardless of and that's regardless if you build their interest or not. Like you can tell, especially like in some people's brains are just lean more towards, the logic and the math. Some people are left brain, some people are right brain, right? And
Right.
it's people's nature. And when we build on that, I think that's when we set them up for success. Because
Mhm.
and I think any successful person will tell you that, especially the extremely successful people will tell you, is that they're not doing the things that they're not good at. There are things that super successful, that the Steve Jobs, the Elon Musk, or whatever, that they're not good at. They don't do those things. They spend all their time doing the things that they're good at, and
And they
then
outsource.
there's other people, and that's the importance of a team, right? And especially in this emerging world where we are able to work more collaboratively, and we are able to work as a team, and this is a perfect situation, right? you
Right.
know um and so even now, you don't have to just homeschool and do all the subjects by yourself. You can
Mhm.
reach out and find a team of people, and it's going to be so much, your children will get so much more value out of that, rather than, because no one's good at everything,
Right.
right? And so if you are homeschooling your child, or you're doing with the community, I think that's just a really good lesson for for really anyone, honestly.
Yeah.
And when you, and hopefully everyone out there is in a job that is, that they apply to, and have jobs where
Mhm.
they can play to their strengths, right?
Yeah.
If you hate math and you're no good at math, I hope you're not an accountant. Even if you're making a bunch of money, you're probably miserable for 8, 9, 10, 11. And some accountants, depending on, like, if working in the private industry, like, they work long out. Some like bankers, people who work for banks, work sometimes like 12
Yeah.
plus hours a day. And that's like your life that you are, and that's your mental health, and that's, so many things. So I just wanted to, that was my big idea. Ask
Yeah.
the Nanny, that Nanny Kim just kind of sparked.
Yeah. But I think that that's like, and those are important things. And I know we've talked about it before. I think when we were on Ask the Nanny, you were saying, as parents, do you force your children to, you ask the question like, do you force your children to live out your dreams through them or something?
Mm,
And my response was, you know, as parents, that is not our job. Our job is to make sure that we raise children to be the best people that they can be. If you see that your child is always bossing everybody else around, odds are they have some leadership abilities, which
mm,
means you should find things to help them become better leaders.
mm-hmm.
So if
Yes.
that means everybody is going to one of those factory schools, but you don't feel like that's the type of school that they should be in, then you change that scenario, um, or you give them things outside of it. If you feel like your child is always tinkering with stuff, I remember my one of my aunts would say that her son would like fix toasters like that were already fixed. He would break them and then fix them again. Okay, well then that child should be like in a STEM type school. Find someone that can tutor them that is in the sciences that are really great with that. You have to play up to the kids' things, like the things that they like. So you have to play up to what they really enjoy, because that's what's going to help them. I was looking at somebody, I think one of those shows, or I mean like a black something online on Instagram, posted the flashback of the Cosby Show, where Bill Cosby is teaching Theo about real life, and he's like, I just want to be a regular person. I want to get a regular job. I don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer like you and mom. I just want to be a regular person. And he's just like, how much do you think you're gonna make as a regular person? And he's like, I'm gonna make $250 a week, and I'm just like, back in those days. But I mean, he's going through this whole thing, and he's like, well, you're gonna have to pay rent, and you're gonna have to do this, and you're gonna have to do that. So you want them to, yeah, have something that is like a passion for them, because then they'll really want to do it themselves. But you also have to be realistic. If you don't put something in their hand to do and help them lean toward a passion, they're not going to enjoy school anyway, because it's not what they want to do. They're not going to enjoy doing the things that really make them happy. I saw a teenager write today. A lot of people, their kids are not going to be happy, and they're going to be suicidal going back to school as teens, because some of them just live for the sports, and they only go to school for the sports, and now that's being taken away. And to hear a teenager say that and put that on their social media today was like, wow. Now this is what our kids are thinking. Have you sat down with your children and asked them what they want? Have you asked them, do you want to go back to school, or what do you think school should look like? Because some of them that
Mm,
are old enough, they'll tell you like, mom, I hated school. The kids were mean, they weren't nice to me. I would rather just stay home and learn, and I can learn from the computer, and make some rules. If they're going to stay home and they want to do the learning from home, then okay, well, we need to sit down and see what that looks like. What is your schedule going to look like? Are you going to work for 3 or 4 hours? And we'll set a timer. My little sister is in college. She actually goes online to some YouTube and to discipline herself, because she's like, she said, I'm not disciplined enough to sit down and actually work for 4 hours straight doing homework. There's somebody that sits down at their computer, turns their computer on, sets the timer for 4 hours, and gives himself or gives themselves like breaks. And when they take breaks, that's when you take your break. I was like, I need that. I need somebody to help me because I'm like, I'm an adult. But I'm like, that is the best idea ever. And that person has like millions of followers.
Yeah.
And this is your type of thinking. This is the millennials. They're like,
here we go.
I just need to sit down for 4 hours because I can't do it. And so like he literally sits, she's like, they have ones that are like 45 minutes, an hour. And I mean, even if you have a 7 or 8-year-old and they say, I can sit down for an hour, and you get one of those and you let them do that, and then they know that they're doing their lesson for an hour. When that person gets up and takes a break, that's when they get up and take a break. Like we have to teach them to be able to self-contain, because in real life, this is what they're doing. When they get in college, our kids are not ready. They go to college and they go from these 30 and 40-minute classes to 90-minute classes. They can't focus long enough. They can't sit down long enough. Like it's really hard for them. So I mean, you got to think about what the kid wants, how we're going to train them to, get their goals accomplished, and then figure out what type of school works for them. And you can ask them. And the good thing about it is parenting. Parenting doesn't come with a book, but guess what? If you realize that something is not working, hey, I tried to homeschool. It didn't work for either one of us. We decided to put him back in school. But figure out, don't just ignore the subject and not think about it. And this conversation is really to help people think about it, because some people are just like, I haven't even thought about it, and now I'm being asked and I have no idea.
Yeah.
And
Kim,
so,
Kim, I think Instagram Live is 45 minutes, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's an hour.
It's an hour? Oh, okay. I was just, all right, okay, cool.
It'll start
giving
us the countdown. You want to read some of the responses, because we got a lot of them.
Yeah. So Jada Rashan, helping children identify their strengths and how to use them accordingly. Yes, I'm supporting the modern nannies saying the same thing. Yep, it's all opportunities to teach them to foster their strengths. The Vargas sister says, my eldest daughter creates things with building blocks, mega blocks, and will color coordinate them. That's awesome. How old is she? I'm curious, because that's, she's sorting.
She said her kids are 3 and under. She said,
three and under.
3 girls, 3 and under.
Okay. Yeah. Already sorting. Love it. I'm also, which is, the pre-skill to graphing. So that's the next step. I'm also big on letting children enjoy being a child. Yes. Childhood is so and people don't talk about it enough, but I'm learning to be mindful about intrinsically motivating them as opposed to extrinsically motivating them more. Yeah. And Jada, people don't, and the more and more I think about it, the more and more I feel like we should honor childhood. They only get one childhood, and it's such a magical place. And I'm of the belief, and as I was, in my school today, and I was kind of observing a 2-year-old, I was letting the other teachers clean their rooms, and so I was interacting with a 2-year-old and actually really just observing and just trying to get into her mind. At first I was interacting, trying to build language, and I was like, let me sit back and watch. And I really do believe that children are, especially young children, I'll say this very confidently with young children know what's best for themselves, but they don't necessarily know how the most appropriate way or safest way to do what's best for them. So they practice all the skills that they need to know on their own. And sometimes for us, it's just about getting out of their way. And it's just letting them enjoy being a child. And I think, sometimes when we're watching children play or they're playing, like, well, they need to be learning. Like the play is the learning. Um, but okay, let's continue. The whole that's more, yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes, Jada Rashawn, that's a good idea. Oh, some of them have concerns that I never would have considered, says the modern nanny. I didn't even think to ask my child. I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Shout out
Yeah.
to you, Kim. So magical. Totally agree. Yes, this. I call my girls unicorns. Play is learning. Play is the work of a child. You
Yeah.
must know. So that's a Montessori thing.
Yeah.
That's
For sure.
CPEX. Do you have a Montessori background by any chance? Because um hi, Mr. Chaz and Nanny
Hi,
Kim.
Abby. Yeah, and you know what I will say while she's going to answer that, what I will say is a lot of people don't realize that science has shown us that children learn a majority, they learn 90%, I think it's like 90% of what they're going to know by age 5. That's when their neurons are firing off the most in their brain. And after that, it slows down. It gets slower and slower and slower. So they can learn, but it just takes them longer. And so that's why they say if you're going to teach them another language, teach them before 5 because they'll pick it
Mhm.
up like this. And so what happens is if you look at other countries, the other countries are all far ahead of the States. And I know like I've worked for other people from different cultures and in other countries. And when I did when I did my Korean family, they went to school during the day. They went to regular school during the day. And when they came home, they actually had like snack. They did, their music lessons. And then I homeschooled them from probably about 6 or maybe 5:30 to about 8 o'clock at night. And the reason was their parents told me, they said, well, that's why Americans are so dumb. In Korea, we go to school all day. We go home in the middle of the day for a break for lunch, and then we go back to school at night. And so they're ahead of us. If you look at places, I think it's like Sweden or Norway, they actually have this, I think it's Norway, they have this schooling that says pretty much they believe that their children learn the most through play. So they don't even start like really real education until they're 7. Most of their schooling for 7 and under is all play. A lot of outside time, a lot of play time, learning through play. And they are, I believe, like in the top 3 out of all of the countries. So it's not
Yeah.
about like in America, we're like, oh, we have to put them in preschool. We have to, get them started early so they can catch up with the rest of the world. Well, the rest of the world is not doing that. So I mean, if you're thinking that they're really missing out on something, they're really not. And at 5, if they're learning everything that they have to learn from now till mostly till 5, what are you doing with that time? How are you creating learning experiences for them? Are they just going to daycare and coming home and whatever they learned at daycare is what they learned? Or are you putting them in a situation where they're constantly learning, constantly in rotation, constantly learning something? Your talk around the house should be something that is constantly teaching them. So whether you know it or not, I think Vargas girls, when you said that the girls are 3 and under, if, constantly speaking to them and constantly letting them play, putting them in situations where they can learn things, and then stepping back and letting them learn and watching, that's how you're going to know what their things are that they really enjoy. And then you push more of that. And they'll learn naturally. So, I feel like the school thing is such a big, it could be a hindrance sometimes. It becomes a crutch. And then what you end up having are people that are to themselves a bit selfish because they're like, well, if they're not in school, then what does that mean for me? What does that mean for, like, what do I have to do to get them back in school? But I think right now, COVID is teaching us all that we can't depend on school and we don't know how it's going to come back. And even the other thing is, I know for jobs, a lot of people are saying, well, I have to go back to work. But what happens is if you put them in school and then COVID breaks out and then everybody has to go home, you haven't had a backup plan. So even if you're trying to send them back to school, still have a backup plan. Have something and ready. Go ahead.
Kim, what are your thoughts on uh, children wearing masks and getting children to wear masks and the whole conversation of, even, we're going to send kids back to school and like they're not going to wear their masks the right way, or they're not going to want to wear a mask, or even getting, now I'll say, before you answer, and it's not going to answer the question I just asked, but I will say that my company has just very recently mandated everyone has to wear a mask, unless you're 2 and younger. And
Mm-hmm.
it was interesting. I was talking to the school age children about it, and I was asking them, how do you feel about wearing a mask? I was like, okay, now you guys have to wear a mask. That's not before we were encouraging you. Now we're saying you have to wear a mask. And it was interesting that half of them like wanted to wear a mask, and the other half didn't want to wear a mask. And when I asked why, we went around the room and I let everyone talk about why. Most of the kids wanted to wear a mask wanted to wear it because they liked the style of it. They liked theirs had a little design on it or whatever. They had a little Hello Kitty mask or whatever it was. And all the kids who didn't like it were more or less the same reason. It just wasn't comfortable, which understandably, it's not comfortable. Honestly, it's not comfortable for me to
Yeah.
wear a mask all day either. I do it to be a role model, not just to the kids, but to the teachers as well. It's not about just what we say, it's about what we do and what they see. But if any parents are concerned or like, ah, man, like my kid's not gonna want to wear a mask or whatever, I think a way that you could get them kind of excited about wearing a mask if they're going back to school or childcare is by going like maybe going online or letting them pick out
Right.
like what kind of mask they want, and maybe getting a few different masks to match like their outfits. And honestly, it's been kind of cool to see some people wear masks as like an accessory to their clothes. Like, okay, we got a whole nother, last year it was like the chokers, this year it's the mask. Maybe by 2021 we won't be able to breathe at all between the chokers and the mask, and maybe we got something, I don't know. But what are your thoughts?
I think it's a hit or miss. I have mixed emotions about it just because I hate the mess. But I'm a firm believer, and I always say like it's like what you just said. It's about what you show them. If it's something that is normal, like when we go into the grocery store now, if my daughter is with me, I have to have my mask on. So she thinks it's very cool. Like she's just like, oh, I have a mask. Like, mommy, I'm gonna put my mask on. So she sees me do it, and she's like, okay, great. Um, I know that we went to the pool the other day, and when we went to the pool, it was it was so funny. There was this little girl there. She was 2. Hey, clearly, Nanny. She was
Mm.
2, and she was so sweet. And I just told her mom, I was like, thank you. I just told her thank you. She was like, why? I was like, she she is so prepared, and she literally has changed my mind about some things. And she was like, really? I was like, yes. So this little girl, she was 2. My daughter is 2. And in my head, I'm just like, my daughter's not going to wear that mask all day or whatever. But this little girl, she didn't have on a mask. But when my little one went up to talk to her, they were talking, and she introduced herself. They introduced themselves, and she had her little play bucket and stuff. And she turns around, and my daughter was getting too close. So she was like, no, no, we have to social distance. You have to move back. And I was like, yes, move back, keep your distance. But that came from that mom drilling it in her head. This is what social distance is. This is how. And so to see a 2-year-old grasp the concept and be able to move forward with letting another person know, you have come too close in my space, in my area, and we have to social distance. It gave me hope that it could be done. But that came from the mom really, really, really having the conversation and not saying she's too young to get it. She doesn't understand. And so I feel like when it comes to the mask, even if you don't think that you can do the mask or your kid will do it, you won't know if you don't try. You don't know if you don't actually teach them, and they see it based on what you do. I look at, I have family members who are Muslim. Their children have always worn their head wraps. They have always understood. Like if you look at different, different people with different religions or from different areas, and
Different
they
cultures.
had their different cultures, and they understand this is what we do. If you make it a thing of this is what we do, they're not going to question it.
Yes, yes, I agree with that. And CPEX brought up a super soft spot that there's no way that we'll have the time to fully discuss, and it makes me want to get back on, but I want to stay clear. I want to stick with what I said, that I think there is a whole nother conversation. Yes, we can get children to wear masks, and even very young children to wear masks, and to social distance and to physically distance and to not play next to each other and to, but there's a strong part of me that feels sad because I know that this is going to impact who they become and the skills that they're learning and what they learn. So yes, maybe they'll put the mask on, but maybe that's going to discourage them from, being close to other humans, from giving, humans, even as they get older, like we said, in the first 5 years, they're developing the personality, who they're going to become for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And if for the first 5 years we're telling them to stay away from other people and we're putting mask on them, and which is because even when I have a mask on, I don't want to talk as much. I only say what I need to say because it's a barrier and it's a little bit harder. Like I can't say it as like, so I'm going to be more, I'm not, as a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, I'm not going to practice those verbal skills as much if I'm wearing a mask all day, with my friend, and all these things. That is my big concern. I understand, and I 100% agree that we need to keep people physically healthy, right? But for me, that is the only conversation we're having, and we're not having the conversation about how we're keeping, how we're going to mitigate the effects of their social emotional development, right? And what could possibly be the effects of, and I think I was talking, I'm pretty sure I was talking, we were probably talking on a different
Oh,
podcast.
yeah.
We're about to
We're
see,
about
we're running out. And so we got to wrap it up. And I'm probably
yeah.
going to talk more about it on my podcast, plug, on the Get Vocal. And Kim is going to talk about, hiring nannies and kind of things to do. But man, guys, like that's where I have a hard time because I see it and people have different feelings. So Kim, I'll let you lead out with it. I'm gonna like shed a tear over here. I'm gonna put my
I
heart
know.
upside down
Oh,
symbolically
it's
because
upside down. But this is the thing, and this is why I opened up with this conversation, and I felt like we needed to continue it because a lot of people haven't even started the conversation. And there's so many aspects of it that need to be discussed for you to make a cohesive, good decision. But I started this conversation off, and I'm going to end it the same way. Everything that you just said, they're missing out on social skills. They're missing out on, being able to do the things, learning verbal skills, learning different. These are all things that they should be learning anyway at home. So when we depend on school
fair enough.
for them to have these things, we've already missed what the whole meaning of school is. School is not for that. This is something that it should be taught at home and something that should be done at home. And if we haven't been doing it at home, this is the time that we step up. This is the time that we step up and we start saying, what is it that I can do to give them what they need so that they're not missing out what they miss on school? So find out what is it that school really teaches them? What are the social skills that they really have? And how can I transfer that at home to give them what they need and to make sure that they don't miss out on anything, whether it's a meetup.com, whether it's whatever it is. But Join us Monday. Get vocal, 7
Yes.
o'clock. Mr. Chaz. Bye.